In this lesson on Python OOPS, we will learn about constructors. So what is a constructor? A constructor is a special type of method which gets executed when we create an object of a class. So when we are creating that object, the constructor is that special method that gets executed. What is its purpose? So typically its purpose is to initialize the instance members of the class, and the constructor can or cannot have parameters. So that depends upon us. If it has parameters, it is known as the parameterized constructor. If it has zero parameters or no parameters, it is known as the non-parameterized constructor. Let's understand this in greater detail with the help of some examples. So here we have our class student and we have defined its constructor. So def, we remember, is used to define a function. And what are we saying here? So we are saying underscore underscore init underscore underscore. So this is the special way we define the constructor. So this will always be written when we are defining the constructor, underscore underscore init underscore underscore. Now the constructor here we can see has three parameters: self, n1 and a1. So the self refers to the object which is getting constructed. So self will always be there. So it refers to itself. And in this case, how many parameters are we passing? We are giving two parameters, n1 and a1. And then what are we doing within this constructor? We are saying self.name is equal to l1. So we are saying the attribute named name in this object or in itself will get the value n1, and the attribute named age in this self or in this object will get the value a1. So now when we are saying, once the class definition is over, so when we are saying st1 is equal to student James comma 27. So notice we are passing two parameters here, which is the first parameter James and the second parameter is 27. So what will happen in this case? It will go into this in the constructor because it will always get called when we are constructing an object, and self.name will get n1 which is James, and self.age will get a1 which is 27. So st1 in this case will become an object of type student, and it will have two attributes, and the attributes will now have the values James and 27. And what will be the names of these attributes? So if we define it slightly above and say student will have two attributes, and what are the names of those attributes? Name comma age. So these are the two attributes we have used here. So these are the two attributes of the class student, and for st1 which is a object of class student, the values for these attributes are James comma 27. So when we say print st1.name, what will get printed is James, and when we say print st1.age, what will get printed is 27. So notice in this case we have used the constructor to initialize the values. Then here we are saying st2 is equal to student Beth comma 28, which means we have now created another student. The name of the student is st2. It is an object of type student, and what values will it get? We have passed two values Beth and 28 to the constructor, so name will now get Beth and age will get 28 for st2. So Beth comma 28. Now when we say print s2.name, what will get printed is Beth, and when we say print s2.age, what will get printed is 28. So this is how we use this constructor, and this constructor was a parameterized constructor and it took two parameters. We have the same definition here, but we are calling the student st1 is equal to student. So here again the constructor will get called, but here we are not passing any parameters. So what will happen? It will look for this constructor, and this constructor expected two parameters. So what will happen? We will get a compile time error. So we'll get a compile error. Why? Because the method underscore underscore init underscore was expecting two parameters and it did not get any. So that is why this will not execute. We will get a compile time error. Let's look at another example. So we have the class course and we have defined a constructor for the class course, and how many parameters it's taking. So self will always be there. So in this case we have three parameters, n1, t1, d1. And what are we doing? We are initializing the three attributes for course, name, tech and duration, with the values n1, t1, d1 respectively. So if I just draw out course, so course will now be have three attributes. And what are the three attributes? Name, tech, duration. So these are the three attributes this class has right now as per this constructor. So now we are saying C1 is equal to course data science comma Python comma 4. So when we call it, this constructor is getting called. So N1 is getting the value data science, T1 is getting the value Python, and D1 is getting the value 4. So let's write it down. So C1 is an object of type course, and what value is self.name getting? N1 is data science. So data science comma Python comma 4. So this is how C1 looks like. Then we are saying print C1.name. So when we print C1.name, what will get printed is data science. Then we are saying print C1.tech, which is Python. And then we are saying print C1.duration, which is 4. So we have been able to create an object, and using the constructor we initialized all the attributes. Let's look here. What are we doing? We are saying C2 is equal to course big data Python 3. So we are creating another object C2 which is of type course, and what values will it get after the initialization? So name will get big data. What will tech get? T1. So T1 in this case is the second attribute, which is Python, and 3. So now when we print C2.name, what will get printed is big data. C2.tech is Python, and C2.duration will be 3. So we have been able to successfully construct an object using the constructor and initialize it. Now what are we doing here? So here we are doing something very interesting, and we are giving some default values. So remember we had learned about default values in functions. So here in this constructor has three parameters, but for T1 and D1 we have given default values of Python and 2. So if we draw out the object, how does it look for us? So the course has three parameters, which is name, three attributes, name, tech and duration. Then what do we have here? If we just try and understand a little bit more. So we are saying C1 is equal to course Android Java 3. So C1 is course Android Java 3. So now N1 will be Android, T1 will be Java, and D1 will be 3. So for C1, if we draw the object, what do we get? C1 is an object of type course, and its values are Android Java 3. So that is how it will get initialized. So name will get Android, tech will get Java, and duration will get 3. Then when we print C1.name, what will get printed is Android, C1.tech would be Java, and C1 dot duration would be 3. Now we are saying here C2 is equal to course big data. Now notice in this case our constructor had 3 attributes, but we are using only one parameter. So will we get an error or will it work? In this case we will not get an error because both these parameters have default values. So we will use the default values in that case. So now what will happen here? So C2 will be an object of type course, of the class course, and what values is it getting? So n1 is big data, so it will get big data, and it will get default values for t1 and d1. So default values for tech and duration, which will be python comma 2. Now when we print c2 dot name, what do we get? Big data. C2 dot tech is python, and C2 dot duration will be 2. So here we have been able to use default parameters of a function in our constructor. So a constructor, as we discussed, can have parameters, which is a parameterized constructor, and a constructor can have no parameters. So let's look at an example of a constructor having no parameters. So here we have modified a class course. It has these 3 attributes: name, tech, duration, which have the values perfect Python, Python and 2. And what are we doing in the constructor? So in the constructor we are saying print no parameters. So when we now construct our object C1 of type course, so C1 will be an object of type course, and it will have the values perfect Python, Python and 2. Now when we in the constructor, when we have called it, so what will get happen? It will get printed is no parameters. So what we will see when we call C1 is equal to course here is it will call this constructor, which is the non-parameterized constructor, because we are not passing any parameters, and what will get printed is no parameters. Then when we say C1 dot name, what will get printed is obviously perfect Python, and then what will get printed is Python, which is the tech, and 2. So here we have used the non-parameterized constructor. Remember we had done this exercise earlier. So we could also have a course example where we have not defined a constructor explicitly. And what will happen in that case? In that case, it's like having a non-parameterized constructor in which we are not doing anything. So what will happen in this case? So C1 will have again the values that we gave it to be. So C1 is an object of type course, and it will have the values perfect Python, Python, comma 2. So what we are learning here is that it is not necessary to always define a constructor. And now when I print C1 dot name, I get perfect Python, and C1 dot tech will be Python, and C1 dot duration will be 2. So notice in this case we did not explicitly define a constructor, and still everything worked for us. Okay.